Is there someone you never properly said goodbye to? Maybe a colleague left the company and their last day slipped by before you could say, "Thank you for everything." Maybe a relationship ended in anger, and the final words between you were ones you wish you could take back. Or perhaps a parent, a grandparent, someone deeply dear to you, passed away, and late at night, you felt that quiet ache of wishing you'd said more while you still could. Goodbye is a strange thing. It leaves a deeper mark than hello. Regret has a way of outlasting joy, staying with us for years, sometimes decades, long after the happy moments have faded. But today, I'd like to share something with you. What if a farewell isn't really an ending? What if goodbye isn't too late, even now? Today we'll walk together through a story from 2,500 years ago. A story about the Buddha and the devoted disciple who stayed by his side until the very end. And we'll explore what it means to close a chapter of your life beautifully. In that final moment, as the Buddha's breath grew shallow and his eyes closed for the last time, his disciple Ananda realized something that transformed his grief entirely. Every word they had ever spoken, every silence they had shared, every moment of presence, it had all been a goodbye already, woven throughout their years together. The farewell wasn't waiting at the end of life, it had been happening all along, in the small attentions, the daily choices to show up with an open heart. And perhaps this is what we've been missing, that we've been saying goodbye to people not in grand final words, but in how we meet them, listen to them, and let them shape us, right now, in this very breath. The story I want to share with you takes place near the end of the Buddha's life. For decades, the Buddha had a disciple who never left his side. He served as the Buddha's personal attendant, preparing his meals, walking with him on every journey, watching over him as he slept. This disciple heard more of the Buddha's words than anyone else alive. He had shared more roads, more sunrises, more silences with his teacher than he could ever count. One day, while traveling, the Buddha fell gravely ill. He was 80 years old. A simple resting place was prepared for him beneath a grove of trees, and lying there quietly, he said to his disciple, "My friend, I will be leaving soon." Hearing those words, the disciple could not hold himself together. He slipped away to a quiet corner in the shade of a tree and wept, openly, without restraint. The teacher who had been the center of his world for so many years was about to disappear from it. He could not accept it. The Buddha sent someone to bring him near, and when the disciple came, his eyes still wet with tears, the Buddha spoke gently, "Please don't weep. For all these years you have cared for me with kindness that was deep and pure and freely given. Everything you have done will bear fruit. Please don't be sad." Then the Buddha turned to the other disciples gathered around him and said, "He is a remarkable companion. Having him beside me all these years, I cannot express how much it has meant." The disciple wept again when he heard those words, but this time, mixed in with the grief, something warm rose up in his chest, something that felt almost like being held. Not long after, the Buddha passed away peacefully, as white blossoms drifted down from the trees above him. This final farewell holds something important for all of us. The first thing it shows us is this: weeping at a goodbye is not weakness. This disciple was one of the most learned, devoted practitioners of his time. He had walked the spiritual path for decades, and yet he hid behind a tree and sobbed like a child, because he had loved his teacher that deeply, because the loss was real. Hiding our grief is not strength. True strength is allowing yourself to feel sorrow fully, and gently, slowly, finding your way forward anyway. The second thing this story teaches us is that gratitude, once spoken, never disappears. Buddhist teaching places great weight on the power of words. Honest, kind, and truthful speech, the Buddha taught, has the power to free the human heart. When the Buddha told his disciple, "What you have given will bear fruit," those were not words of comfort. They were true. Every act of genuine kindness, the teachings say, leaves a trace in the fabric of the world. It does not vanish. It becomes part of what remains. The third lesson is perhaps the most quietly revolutionary. A farewell does not end a relationship. After the Buddha's death, his devoted disciple played an extraordinary role. Because he had listened so closely for so many years, he could recite the teachings from memory, and through him, the Buddha's words were preserved and shared with the world. Even in death, their bond kept expanding outward. When someone we love is gone, one form of that relationship ends. But what they gave us, their words, their warmth, their laughter, the way they changed us simply by being near, that lives on inside us. It lives on in who we are today. We see this in our own lives whether we realize it or not. The teacher whose patience shaped how we treat others, the parent whose hands we now see in our own hands, the friend whose favorite joke still makes us laugh when we need it most. The relationship transforms, but it does not vanish. It becomes something quieter, closer, more woven into the fabric of who we have become. Let's bring this story a little closer to your own life today. Our days are full of goodbyes. A job we leave behind, a child who grows up and moves away, a friend who moves to another city, a relationship that comes to its end. And sometimes, quietly, people we love step out of this world before we're ready. In those moments of parting, how do we show up? If there's a relationship in your life that you feel is coming to a close, whether you're the one stepping away or it's simply fading, I invite you to pause for a moment. There is a difference between ending something in anger and ending it with a word of thanks. The difference isn't just for the other person, it's for you. The weight you carry afterward will feel entirely different, depending on which one you choose. Thank you carries a quiet power, even towards someone you struggled with, even towards someone who hurt you. If you can find one thing, just one thing, and say, I learned something from knowing you, a small light comes on in that dark space, and that light shines back on you. And what about someone you can no longer reach? A parent who has already passed, a partner who is gone, a child taken too soon. It might feel like your words can no longer find them, but I wonder, is that really true? Try this. Fold your hands, close your eyes, and say it out loud. Thank you. In Buddhist understanding, those we have lost remain connected to us through the bonds we shared. Your words may not travel the way they once did, but the person who lives on inside you, they hear everything. And one more thing, the people who are still here, still beside you, are you telling them? I believe what made that ancient disciple weep so hard was not just loss. It was all the things left unsaid. So if someone is still there, still within reach, please say it now, before the goodbye comes, while your voice can still reach them. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Hey, thank you is enough. You already know deep down how far those simple words can travel. There is just one thing I want to leave you with today. Goodbye is not a word of ending. It is a word of love. A beautiful farewell doesn't require grand gestures or the perfect speech. It only asks one thing, that you receive the other person with gratitude, that you let them know, in whatever words you have, that you are glad they were here. That's all. And with just that, any parting becomes something beautiful. The devoted disciple wept, and still he was able to thank his teacher. And the Buddha, lying beneath those blossoming trees, thanked him in return. In that exchange, something complete and whole and luminous passed between them. They said goodbye beautifully. May you know that kind of farewell too. And may today be the day you offer one small thank you to someone you hold dear before you have to say goodbye. Thank you as always for being here. The fact that you watched until the very end gives this talk its meaning. I'll see you again next time, and together we'll keep walking through the wisdom the Buddha left behind. There is a woman in my village who sits with the dying, and she never speaks of loss. Instead, she holds their hand and says, "What a gift that I knew you." The families watch this, and their grief becomes gentler, held within something larger than sorrow. This is what happens when we understand that goodbye is simply love taking a different form.